Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. It's Friday, August the 26th. I'm Haggerty 10, Tony Haggerty, Twitter handle, and I'm joined as always by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW. It's the morning after the day before, Sean. The Champions League debrief. Celtic got Real Madrid, RB Leipzig, and Shakhtar Donetsk in the group stage of the Champions League draw, which was made in Istanbul yesterday. We had a guest on to talk about that yesterday, didn't we, Sean?
Certainly did, Tony. A very special guest.
He was indeed. And if you haven't already watched the YouTube video of myself, Sean, and Paul Lambert discussing the Champions League draw and a lot of other things to boot, Sean, it was a cracking.
Yeah, it grew arms and legs, didn't it, Tony? It was. I think it was like, right, Paul, come on and talk about the Champions League draw, and we spent about 20 minutes talking about the Champions League draw and about half an hour talking about his time at Celtic. So these things happen, and it was enjoyable, wasn't it?
But to be fair to Paul, he was great. He was great chat, and I urge anybody to go and have a look at the video. You'll enjoy it, guys. It's tremendous chat by I put out on Twitter this morning. One of football's great guys, terrific, and he stayed for that length of time, and he was quite happy to be there, wasn't he, Sean?
He certainly was. Sean Curran saying he was disappointed there was no Mr. Ben, Tony, but Paul Lambert was a more than excellent substitute.
That's very kind of you to say, Sean. We'll maybe work on the Mr. Ben one for a later edition, Shawnee. But yeah, I mean, although we spoke to Paul yesterday, Sean, I wanted to gather your own thoughts about the Champions League draw, and what do you think?
I think I'm honestly, I said it last night on the video with Paul Lambert. I'm convinced that Callum McGregor has spoke this into existence, the Real Madrid thing. But no, it's an exciting draw. I think it's the kind of buzzword last night in the comments was doable, and I do think it is doable. I think things have got to fall your way. Obviously, sometimes the order of the fixtures makes a difference, or that kind of thing. But Real Madrid are obviously defending champions. They've got last night the coach of the year, men's coach of the year, men's player of the year, probably going to have the Ballon d'Or winner by the time that rolls round as well with Benzema. So they are the favourites, and even though both Carlo Ancelotti and Karim Benzema have says about the draw that there's no favourites and everybody's a challenge and all that kind of thing, they're the favourites, and they're the favourites for the whole thing, really. So them aside, and that's not dismissing it because Celtic will go and have a ding at them, but Shakhtar Donetsk not playing their home games in the Ukraine for obvious reasons. It's going to be in Warsaw in Poland, and yes, they will have a big following there as well, but nonetheless, it's not going to be in their home stadium. Then RB Leipzig, and I think Paul Lambert mentioned last night, Leipzig are not the Leipzig of a couple of seasons ago, and you saw that last season. Paul mentioned that he thinks that the atmosphere, in fact, he knows that the atmosphere, because he spoke to Andreas Hinkle, he thinks the atmosphere got to them at Ibrox in the Europa League. So if that gets to them, Parkhead will get to them. And I think the other two teams, I basically think it's Real Madrid and AN other, and there's no reason Celtic can't be that AN other.
I totally agree, Sean. I think it's, as you said, the buzzword was doable. All we wanted was a doable group, or a group where you could be fiercely competitive in. And I think Celtic can be fiercely competitive in and can go give it a right rip for that second place, because you have to say Real Madrid will win the group, won't they? Probably.
I think so. I would take an almighty collapse for them, you would imagine, to not get the requisite points. Last year, and Carlo Ancelotti actually mentioned this in his when he was kind of reviewing the draw for Real Madrid TV. We mentioned it last night on the video. Sheriff Tiraspol, beat them in the group stages at the Bernabeu last year, so it can be done. Obviously, that was only a minor bump because they went and won their 14th European Cup, but nonetheless, Ancelotti himself mentioned that the group stages can throw up these kind of things, even for a team like Real Madrid. So it's exciting, if nothing else, Tony. It's exciting. There's, I mean, the Shakhtar Donetsk football director of football, Dario Srna, you remember him from the games against Celtic back in 04 and 07, I think. He was obviously their captain. He's now their director of football. He basically says it could have been harder. It could have been better, that kind of thing. And I think even most Celtic fans would say that it's doable in a sense, still very hard. There was a potentially more difficult groups. There was potentially quote unquote easier groups. But I'm quite happy with that, and I think the players will be too.
Well, let's just say there's optimism abounds, Sean, amongst the supporters. There wasn't a foreboding sense of doom after the draw yesterday. It was all very, upbeat. Maurice Gents was even saying that Celtic are going to compete for first spot in the group. I love that chat. I love that kind of chat. I really do.
That's Yakimakis-esque, that kind of sentence. I think that, to be honest, Tony, looking at the groups, I've still got them noted down in front of me from last night. The Group C, Bayern, Barca, Inter. If Celtic had got that one, maybe there would have been a wee bit of the sense of doom that you're talking about. Potentially Group H, PSG, Juventus, Benfica. But the rest of the groups, I think you would have went into it thinking, if not doable, certainly think we will have a right good dig at this. So
we spoke about it yesterday, and I think Max Stark, we wanted a glamour tie and then two other very beatable teams. And I think that's what a lot of the Celtic supporters think, that they can be, as I've just said, they are fiercely competitive against RB Leipzig and Shakhtar, and that's all you could ask for.
Yeah, really, I mean, Frank Brennan, Tony, with his usual dose of reality for everybody. It's talk about finishing second, for goodness sake, like as if Leipzig and Shakhtar are not thinking the exact same thing. Now, I agree with that. They will be thinking the same thing. They'll be looking at it exactly the same way that Celtic will be, but that's only natural. But the last sentence, I don't know if it is with far more justification.
Neither do I. No, but I mean, you heard Paul Lambert saying last night that RB Leipzig aren't the force of a couple of years ago, and I don't think Shakhtar are the force of a few years ago when we played them. We'll find out. I mean,
they've still got a good team, but obviously there's other things going on with the Ukrainian sides. It's just a different situation entirely for them. But I can see where Frank's coming from in terms of there's three teams that will be thinking exactly the same. Real Madrid will obviously be saying, right, we'll beat everybody, we'll win it, that kind of thing. But the other three teams will all be thinking the same here. We could get second place here if everything falls into place. But I don't necessarily think Shakhtar and Leipzig have any higher justification than Celtic to be thinking they'll be there. But
Real Madrid say that anyway, Sean, don't they? You know what I mean? So that's just their way of thinking. Now, I was a bit lax in my duty this morning. I forgot to mention running along the strap. I usually do. Nice wee segue into the next segment. Subscribe to the Celtic Way. You know what to do, guys. We say to you every day, support top quality journalism, covering the club you love. It's £1 a month for full access to the website and everything, and it's brilliant. There's some tremendous reading on there, some tremendous articles. So join us, hit that subscribe button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And Curtis comes in and says to you, come on, Frank, can we not have that Friday feeling? Let the boys dream. Indeed, Frank, come on, a bit more upbeat and positivity, Frank. That's what we want. Because as I said, optimism abounds, Sean. I think lots of Celtic supporters, as you mentioned earlier, are really excited about it now. Can't wait.
But I mean, why would they not be?
Yeah,
it's a Champions League group stages. You've got the reigning European champions, not played them since the 80s. There's every reason to be excited. What I will say is, and I kind of touched on this last night with you and Paul, the fixtures, obviously, we don't actually know the order of we know the dates, but we don't know whether it's a Tuesday or the Wednesday, and we don't know the order of home and away games and stuff like that yet. That'll probably be tomorrow. There's a slim chance it's later today after the Europa League draw, but it's probably going to be tomorrow. Just if anybody's looking for flights and sky scanners on hold and stuff like that and different things. But the other thing is just, I kind of touched on this last night with the fixture list, Tony. Because of the World Cup, it's kind of 3 groups of 2 almost. 3, so for the 6 games, it's like successive weeks for the first 2, a week gap, successive weeks for the 3rd and 4th, a week gap, successive weeks for the 5th and 6th, which is a kind of a novel way of doing it, because I want to squeeze it all into 8 weeks essentially. So that, all right, for Celtic, you essentially play twice, 3 times a week anyway. So the only difference is that one of those games is going to be in a Champions League format. But I am looking at it and I'm thinking the first one, straight out of a Glasgow derby, September the 3rd, and then the first group game is either the Tuesday or the Wednesday. Second match day, you're at home to Livy and then away to St Mirren either side. Third is home to Motherwell and then away to St Johnstone. Fourth is away to St Johnstone, which is the same one obviously, and then home to Hibs. But the 5th one, and this is the one again, Paul Lambert basically just said, right, well, it is what it is when you're at that stage. You'd rather have that dilemma than not. But nonetheless, when I'm seeing it and I'm looking at it, away to Hearts at Tynecastle, who, all right, they will also have their European commitments as well. But away to Hearts at Tynecastle, and then it will be a European game, which, all right, we don't know if it's home or away or what just now or who. But then you're coming off of that, and it's away at Almondvale for Livy. But I just think that's the one you look at and go, that's a difficult week by all accounts, regardless of who the European opposition is in the middle, Tony.
Very much so. But as Paul pointed out, that's what you want, isn't it? He said that the Celtic players will embrace that, and they'll be into their stride by then with the kind of game, midweek game, weekend game, midweek game, weekend game. So you'd like to think that by that point that Celtic will be firing on all cylinders, and regardless of who the European tie is, they'll be able to cope. We'll soon see, won't we? But
well, that squad depth, Tony, that will certainly play a part. With poor Frank's getting pelters in the comments here for his second place is nonsense.
Speaking of squad depth, Sean, Celtic added another one yesterday.
Aye, they did.
Sayed Haksabanovic came in almost under the radar, Sean. It was kind of a footnote to everything else that was happening yesterday, but he has signed, and as you've rightly pointed out, another 5-year deal. We like a bit of security at Celtic.
Yes, I'm glad that banging on about that enough. I'm glad that you actually listen still, because I'm thinking you switch off when I go on about the same things all the time. But
not the slightest.
It kind of went under the radar. It was obviously without official confirmation of a fee, because it says undisclosed and stuff like that. But it's believed, Tony, reports say it's potentially as little as 2 million, which, if accurate, is frankly like phenomenal from Michael Nicholson and co, in my opinion, if that is the case, because this was a guy worth more than 6 million about a year ago. So to get that deal tied up for that amount, if it's accurate, you can only praise the club for that. They've taken advantage of a situation. They've saw that it was a guy they were interested in, but the price was too high. Subsequently seen a gap to say, well, revise that price and we still want him, that kind of thing. And then to get him on a 5-year deal is, again, same as Jota. So that's till 2027, which is 1 year more than the likes of McGregor, Carter Vickers, Juranovic, Maida, Hatate, etc. But I've been saying it all summer. And again, good to know you don't switch off when I bang on about it, because you tweeted it as well. But security is underrated, Tony, when it comes to this squad.
I didn't.
Whether it's in terms of everybody's still going to be there, whether it's in terms of if anybody wants them, they're going to need to pay good money.
Yes.
Security is underrated. And yeah, there was a couple of comments when I said that on Twitter again yesterday, saying it's good to have the security if they succeed. But if not, you end up with someone under contract for years and maybe kind of shift them, that kind of thing. But I don't think anybody goes into a transfer with that in their mind that this guy's going to fail. Otherwise, you don't give them a 5-year deal. I certainly see it as a bonus that this squad is essentially together, unless someone really wants to break the bank to disrupt it.
Yeah. Also, as well, Sean noticed that possibly Owen Moffat heading out. Interest from Blackpool, I believe, down south.
Yep. Well, I've got you on Haksabanovic. I'll put the scouting report in if you want to read any more about him. There's a full scouting report on the site that you can see from that. Owen Moffat was Scott Burns at the record, I think, Tony, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Reporting that it was a permanent move. Unsure about any sort of buyback clause or anything like that. It's not really a thing in British football, a lot, buyback clauses. I always think it would be worth exploring for Celtic if they let a youngster go, just in case. They ended up buying, I know he left before it was first team level, but Jack Hendry, they ended up buying him back and stuff like that. Like, there's always, Scott Bain was at Celtic when he was younger. There's always examples. But yeah, it looks as if Owen Moffat might be on the move. He's on a deal until 2024. But perhaps that pathway, perhaps it's just still really not there for a guy in his position. With the signing of Haksabanovic, I know he might cover a few positions, but with that signing as well, maybe it's an even smaller window. And I have just mixed my metaphors up there, but still, I think maybe it's just there's just not that pathway for him this season, so he's looking elsewhere.
Indeed. Now, amidst all the excitement, Sean, something that has been lost is Celtic are actually playing on Sunday, playing Dundee United, and back to the domestic grind and the bread and butter, and against a Dundee United side who don't have their troubles to seek. Celtic hoping to inflict more misery on Jack Ross's men, and all kind of signs point to Celtic doing well at Tannadice. They've done well at Tannadice the past few seasons. Clinched the league there with the one each draw with Giacomakis header earlier this season. But yeah, I fully expect Celtic to win on Sunday. But there's been some chat from Dundee United how they're going to change things and go at Celtic and all sorts of stuff. You know, I think Rory McKenzie tried that the other week.
He did,
didn't he? Tried to come out with some chat and Celtic kind of swatted them aside. But do you see a similar thing happening at Tannadice, Sean?
To be honest, I mean, I don't see why not. When you look at Dundee United, like I always kind of try and tell you what kind of shape they're going to play and stuff. Against Celtic, there's only so much you can take from the shape that team play against the rest of the league, because inevitably they don't have the ball a lot of the time. Celtic camp, or at least basically have the territory. So whether you're in a 4-2-3-1, which is what Dundee United usually play, or a 4-3-3, which can nominally that can turn into, it usually ends up 4 or 5 at the back and then everybody else. Like that's just what it means. That's usually what it means when you play Celtic. So in terms of shape, there's only so much you can read into it. But the overriding thing about Dundee United is they concede chances, and when you're Celtic, that bodes really well. Obviously, that kind of statement is borne out by the underlying data, obviously, but as well as just the test of, not even the eye test, but just looking at their score lines, Tony. 3-0 loss to St Mirren, 4-1 loss to Hearts, 7-0 to AZ in the last 3 games. And even before that, they gave up more chances than they created in the 1-1 draw with Kilmarnock. That impressive first leg 1-0 first leg win against AZ aside, which was marginal in terms of what they created versus what AZ created. That leaves just the game against Livy. That's the only real game where they properly out-created their opponents, but they lost that 1-0. So, again, without being disrespectful to Dundee United, it points again to a team banging form, firing on most of their cylinders, if not all of them yet, against a team that's conceding a lot of chances. And you would imagine that bodes well for Celtic again.
Personnel-wise, Sean, do you make a lot of changes? Do you mix it up? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's still 1 game a week. He's kind of shown there's no need to change it up unless there's injuries. If you're looking ahead for the midweek game, League Cup, I think, is maybe where I could see maybe Giacomakis coming in for a start, maybe against Ross County. Which naturally means I don't think he's going in Sunday. I don't know if you're going to double down on him again and say he's maybe going to start.
No, I'll probably go with your thoughts on that. He might get a start on Wednesday. He might get the nod on Wednesday with the Champions League coming up, because he might want to use him more in the Champions League, that kind of thing. So
I'm intrigued with Carl Starfelt. I think Jens again had a good game, so almost
as you were.
Jens again, I think it might be as you were again. One exception, maybe Hatate.
Yeah, Hatate to start in place of Turnbull. Hatate looked very, very bright when he came on Sunday, it has to be said.
He did. That's the only one off the top of my head I'm thinking, unless he confirms at the presser later that there's any knocks or anything like that. I think Wednesday's going to be the difficult predicted 11, the real difficult ones. I think there will be a few changes for that. You know how I've often said this summer, without meaning to be disrespectful to them, because I don't mean it in this way. It's just a reflection of the kind of strength of the squad, but almost that second unit.
Yes.
And I always kind of mention Ralston, Abada, Giacomakis. You obviously wrote about specifically Ralston and Giacomakis linking up with the crossing and stuff, but the 3 of them together as a kind of second unit starting kind of trio. I quite like the idea of that against Ross County on Wednesday.
Well, Ange would always say that he doesn't have a detailed starting 11.
No, he doesn't, but you'll see when a derby rolls round in a Champions League game quickly who's in his first choice 11.
Yes, he's in his first choice 11 or not. Indeed, Sean, that will be. But I think Wednesday will be, I think that'll be the rotation come into play on Wednesday night. But and first things first, Sean, Celtic have got to get on with the job in hand, make it 5 out of 5 at Tannadice.
Yep. Dundee United have got a weird, do you remember we were talking about obviously the Brisbane Roar run as well?
Yeah.
And Celtic obviously 36 games unbeaten just now, which all right for Celtic doesn't really mean a lot. But within that, I think I says when we were talking about it, but Dundee United 1-1 at home was what it started with. And Dundee United are the only team within those 36 games to take points off a Celtic twice. And it was 2 1-1 draws, but the second 1-1 draw, the first one obviously kicked off this run. The second 1-1 draw clinched Celtic the league title.
Yes.
So it was almost, you took points, but not really done much there.
Yeah, no, it's a strange quirk, that, isn't it, Sean? That of all the teams that you would have guessed would have taken points off Celtic twice, Dundee United probably wouldn't have featured in your top three. You know, so it's that's a nice stat, that, Sean. We like that.
There's also the Tannadice factor, as we said at the end of the season. I tweeted it out. Was it 54th, 43rd, no, 53rd, 43rd, and 33rd titles were all won at Tannadice. I think it was something like that.
Yes.
I tweeted it out. I'll find the tweet later on, but just I love wee cocks of fate like that, Tony. Love it. We've getting a lot of, by the way, we're getting a lot of praise. Self-praise is no praise, they say, but I'm still going to put it up. Getting a lot of praise in these comments for the episode with Paul last night, Tony. Quite a few people.
That's guys. That's
it was all Paul. Let's not lie, it was all Paul. But
let's be honest. I said off camera when we came off, you're only as good as the guest that you get on to talk. But yeah, and I agree with Jerry. You could listen to stuff like that all night, that he's Celtic and Dortmund stories. You know, and he downplayed his career something terrible, didn't he? In terms of, I did all right. I mean,
he didn't need to talk it up, because we all talk it up for him anyway. But
he did more than all right, didn't he? And
Dermot here actually saying that no, actually great interview, but Tony's intro was better. The Gettysburg Address.
Yeah, indeed, I gave it. Well, you don't.
To be fair, it was only listing what he'd done. It's not your fault. It was a lengthy list.
You don't talk to a Champions League winner every day of your life, and I think it kind of showed in the excitement and enthusiasm that we both had speaking to him. And I mean, I've known him for a number of years, going back to his time as a Livingston manager and stuff like that, and as a player as well. So, but yeah, just great to have a guest of that calibre on, and for him to feel comfortable enough to share some stories with us. And if you haven't watched the video, guys, on YouTube, give it a watch. You will enjoy it. There's something there for everybody, and he's a class act. As I said, he's one of football's great guys, top man, and gave us just short of an hour of his time, which was tremendous for everybody involved.
Tori, I'm going to put this comment up, just really to annoy you, because it's going to make you want to explain the newsletter from yesterday, which a couple of people didn't seem to get. But Frank Kennedy responding to Frank Brennan earlier, saying just tell Ange and the players not to bother competing in the Champions League, which is another way of saying never tell them the odds, Tony, I suppose.
Correct. Indeed.
Would you like to explain why I'm bringing that up? Some Star Wars fans amongst us will probably know what I'm meaning already, but.
Yeah, I wrote a newsletter and I quoted him as being a kind of Han Solo guy. Never tell him the odds, didn't I? In terms of the more impossible the odds,
the more he'll want to do it.
The more he'll want to do it. And some people,
and a couple of people took it the wrong way. And
took it the wrong way and said, you should tell him the odds. And I'm like, well,
that's the point.
The whole point of it is C-3PO says to Han Solo, the odds of dodging an asteroid field or something like 3,760 to 1. I think that's what he says to him, which is nigh on impossible. He's basically saying, and Han Solo Harrison Ford says, never tell me the odds. And I think that's the way Ange Postecoglou, nothing's impossible. That's the whole point, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I said that's the way he would approach the Champions League, and ended it with the great line, Sean, didn't I? May the fourth pot team be with you. There you go. That was it.
I think that's a good note to end it on, isn't it, Tony?
That is a cracking note to end it on. May the fourth pot team be with you. Indeed, Celtic going to the Champions League against the holders, Real Madrid, Shakhtar Donetsk, RB Leipzig. Optimism abounds. Have a fantastic Friday, guys. We will reconvene. When will we reconvene, Sean? Monday?
Monday, Monday for the morning briefing, yep.
Yeah, Monday for the morning briefing. We'll be back, same back channel, same time, or some point round about tennis. You keep getting chided for turning up late. Sorry, guys. You know how it is. But yeah, have a brilliant day. And listen, thanks for your comments about the Lambert interview and just your comments in general. Yep. Say it all the time. We love the fact that we've created a wee community here, and we appreciate everything that you do for us, and we hope that you appreciate what we do for you, or what we try to do for you on a daily basis. But you get involved in the chat, and we can't do it without you. So thank you for that. And if you haven't already, you know what I'm going to say. Subscribe to the Celtic Way. Get access to everything on the website and the YouTube videos, but more so the website. You see some wonderful articles from great columnists, great opinions, just statistical data analysis. It's all there, something for everybody. Join us, hit the button, £1 a month for full access. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Sean, first class as always. Tremendous. Guys, have a wonderful weekend. Here's hoping Celtic can get another 3 points at Tannadice, Sean. Make it 5 out of 5.
Certainly. Cheers, Tony. Cheers, guys. Appreciate it.